Alexander the Great was a man who, by the age of 30, controlled almost the entire known world. And by 32, he was dead under mysterious circumstances. He was called the Great, a military genius, a destroyer of empires. But if you strip away the textbook glorification, what remains is a far more unsettling story. The story of a man who may have truly believed he was a god. He was born in 356 BC in Macedonia. His father, King Philip II, transformed Macedonia from a secondary state into a powerful military machine. But the person who influenced Alexander even more deeply was his mother, Olympias. She was intensely religious and convinced her son that his true father was Zeus himself, not metaphorically, literally. From childhood, Alexander was told he was not just a boy, but chosen. That kind of belief can either break someone or make them dangerously ambitious. In his case, it did the latter. At the age of 13, his tutor became Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers of antiquity. He taught Alexander logic, medicine, literature, and politics. Alexander grew up not just as a warrior, but as an educated strategist. He carried a copy of Homer's Iliad with him and saw Achilles as his personal role model. He didn't just want to defeat enemies, he wanted to enter myth. By 16, he was already governing the kingdom in his father's absence. At 18, he fought in the Battle of Chaeronea and personally led the cavalry charge against the elite sacred band of Thebes. It was the moment that made one thing clear. This was not just a prince. This was a future conqueror. At 20, Philip II was assassinated. Alexander became king. Almost immediately, he had to suppress revolts in Greece. The city of Thebes was destroyed as a warning. The new king was no weaker than the old one. Then came the campaign that changed history. Alexander invaded the Persian Empire, the largest and most powerful state of that time. His opponent was Darius III. Persia had more soldiers, more resources, and vastly more territory. From a logical standpoint, this war made little sense, but logic is rarely the main driver of ambition. In 333 BC, Alexander defeated Darius at the Battle of Issus. Later, at Gaugamela, he delivered another decisive blow. These were not minor victories. They shattered the core of a massive empire. Darius fled. Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis fell under Macedonian control. And here, something unexpected happened. Alexander did not simply destroy everything in his path. He preserved local administrations, adopted Persian customs, wore Persian clothing, and even demanded the Eastern ritual of proskynesis, a gesture of bowing traditionally reserved for divine figures. His own officers were uncomfortable. Many believed their king was becoming too Persian. Over time, troubling signs appeared. Alexander began demanding recognition of his divine status. During a banquet, his close friend Clitus criticized him for elevating himself and diminishing the achievements of the Macedonians. In a fit of rage, Alexander killed Clitus with his own spear. He later regretted it deeply, but the fact remained. The man who commanded armies could not control his own anger. Still, the campaign continued. Alexander pushed farther east into Central Asia and eventually into India. There he faced armies using war elephants, creatures that must have seemed almost prehistoric to his soldiers. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River, he defeated King Porus. But this time, something changed. His army refused to march any farther. 8 years of continuous campaigning, thousands of miles traveled, disease, heat, monsoon rains. For the first time, his soldiers no longer believed in the endless expansion of the world. And for the first time in his life, Alexander was forced to turn back. The return journey was brutal. A significant part of the army perished crossing the Gedrosian Desert, a decision many historians consider either a grave strategic mistake or an act of stubborn pride. In 323 BC, while in Babylon, Alexander suddenly fell ill. He suffered from a high fever that lasted for days. Gradually, he lost the ability to speak, though some accounts suggest he remained conscious. Theories about his death range from malaria and typhoid fever to poisoning and rare autoimmune disorders. One hypothesis even suggests he may have suffered from Guillain-Barré syndrome, leaving him paralyzed but aware, potentially declared dead while still alive. Historians continue to debate the cause. When asked who should inherit his empire, he reportedly answered, "To the strongest." What followed were the wars of the Diadochi, battles between his generals. The empire quickly fractured, but his influence endured. The Hellenistic era began. Greek culture spread from Egypt to India. The city of Alexandria became a center of science and knowledge. Alexander lived only 32 years. He never grew old. He never truly experienced defeat. He never saw the collapse of his own empire. Perhaps that is why his image became legend. He did not die as an ordinary ruler. He remained suspended between history and myth. Was he a genius? Undoubtedly. Was he ruthless? Absolutely. Did he believe he was divine? Most likely, yes. And perhaps the most remarkable part of his story is not how much land he conquered, but how far he pushed the limits of what people believed was possible. He did not just redraw the map of the world. He expanded the boundaries of human ambition. And that is why, more than 2,000 years later, we are still talking about him. If you want more content like this, subscribe to this channel. The next video will be dedicated to Stalin and his personality cult. Don't miss it. See you in the next video.